Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'm working on the F-150. This is my 2016 Ford F-150. It's the XLT, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6. I bought this about a month ago. It's one of the highest mileage I've found in the country, 266,000 miles on this thing. And I'm working on the oil pan today. The oil pan has a leak from it. Now, if yours has this, don't freak out. It's not that big of a deal because it's a common failure or common leaking point on these. So I've been working on it, and I want to give you guys, now this isn't like a DIY tutorial, but I want to give you some tips and tricks that I've used along the way. I'm just to the point where I'm about to unbolt the oil pan from the block, and there's two bolts that are blocked by the differential, the front differential. And so I want to just show you how I got to this point, and maybe this will give you some tips and tricks as to whether you want to tackle it yourself and some things to consider as you're going into this project. Okay, so I have this truck up on ramps here. This isn't on, I don't have a lift or anything, so I'm just doing it on these ramps on my garage floor. So it is doable, but it does make it a lot more difficult. Okay guys, we're under the truck here. I just want to give you a quick guide on what I've done so far in case you're wondering how to do this yourself. Here's the oil pan. Okay, this is the back of the truck. Here's the front of the truck here. Okay, so we're looking basically up at the pan. So if you can see here, the oil pan, now you just have to take off there's some shielding here. You just have to take off a couple metal plate and then some fabric shielding underneath here. Now if you look up here, see these bolts? There's actually oil around them. You can see that those are going to come off. So there's 17 bolts around the oil pan. Now if you can see here, here's our differential, and then there's this axle tube that goes across to the passenger side wheel over here. That's in the way. All right, let me show you. I want to show you the bolts that are hard to get to. See, there's a bolt hole right there. I just got that one out. If you use a short 1/4-inch socket with a 10mm socket on there, a socket wrench, and then a ratcheting 10mm wrench, you can get that out if you drop this down. But you have to drop the differential down. Okay, so let me show you the bolts to drop the differential down. Now, it doesn't drop very far. Here, there's one on this side, so this is the passenger side. It's an 18mm bolt that pulls out from this side where the steering rack is. So if you see here, I'll try to pull this down a little here. Once you get out all three bolts, it basically can move just a little bit down. It's maybe drop down a 1/2 inch. That's only all the clearance you can get there. So there's one there. That's the first bolt you take out. And then the second one, you can see the hole right there. So this is the drive, right here's the drive shaft. So it's just a 21mm right there. And then there's another one up by the steering shaft. So once you take out those three, I'm going to show you that other one. You take those three out. Okay, you can see right there, there's a bolt, there's a hole where the bolt would have gone. That's what you take out. This is up under the front of the engine. You got to access that through the front, through this front portion right here. So here's the radiator, here's the front cross member. You got to go up through here, 18mm, you pull that one out. The problem with that one up there is the steering shaft gets in the way. So you have to loosen the steering rack. So you got to take out this 21mm. This is on the driver's side, 21mm, take that out, loosen that out. That loosens up the steering rack. It moves that steering shaft a little bit so you can pull that 18mm bolt out. So those are the three bolts you have to remove to slightly lower the differential. Now, now I'm facing the rear. Here's the rear of the truck. I thought once I got those three bolts out, it would just drop down. That's not the case. So I had to get a pry bar to pry down this tube, to move this tube just a little bit to get to that bolt. You also want to loosen the sway bar mounts so that it can hang down a little bit to slip the pan out. Okay, these are the two tools I use to get those bolts off. Just a 10mm socket. You want to get as short as socket as you can get. I had a couple 10mm. This was the shortest one I could find, with just a 1/4-inch ratchet. This curve in the handle actually fits the contour of the pan really well. And then just a 10mm ratcheting wrench helps a lot. So now I'm just going to use the 10 millimeter socket with just an extension on it to zip off those other ones, and then we'll be good to take that pan off. Okay, this pan finally came out. This was pretty tough to get out. I've been working on it off and on for 2 or 3 days. So this RTV sealant that's all around the pan that's keeping it up there, that's like glue up there. And I had to get a putty knife and really kind of peel it off there. So that took a while to get that off. Another part, see this little notch right here? The timing chain sprocket, it fits down in this little notch there, and that prevents it from pulling out. So you really have to drop that axle down further than I had previously got it to be able to even pull the pan out. Okay, one thing I did to help drop the differential down, I tried doing this on jack stands, or not jack stands, but ramps. And so what I ended up doing is, this wheel is now free. I had to jack this up. So you want to drop the wheel as far down as you can on both sides to be able to drop the differential down. So if you're doing it on ramps, don't do it on ramps, just put it on jack stands so the tires are off the ground. That way the wheel is going to drop down and it takes strain or the angle off of the axles, and it's allow the drive shaft to get down. So that's one thing that was important, is get the wheels off the ground. Okay, so here we are underneath the truck. So this is a point that you're taking a bolt off of. This is some tape here. You're taking a bolt out of this. This is the differential now. Now that I have the wheels off the ground, this actually drops down quite a bit. So you need all of that clearance to be able to get it. So you want this part of the axle resting on the control arm here. If you can see, that's been dropped down. It fits up in there. It's dropped all the way down there. Here's this little timing chain where it fits in that little notch. So that's really the sticking point to it. So you have to get the cover down far enough. But once you drop this axle all the way down, it can go. You can pull that off. So now that I have that off, I'm just going to get a razor blade, clean up around, clean the old silicone, the RTV out of there, get some brake clean it all up, and then I'm going to get the new pan on. All right, back under the truck here. I got the gasket all scraped off just with the razor blade, and then I sprayed some brake clean on this just to really clean up the surface. I want to make sure the surface is really clean. I put a new seal. This seal here just pulls out, and just put some oil on it, and I just stick that back up there. So now what I'm doing, I'm going to get the RTV put up here, and then I'm also going to put the RTV on the pan as well. I'm going to get it up here and start screwing it back in. There's 17 10 millimeter bolts around this thing. So this should be a little bit of a challenge, just because you only have about 10 minutes before the RTV starts to set up. So I've got to do it quickly. And, just getting it up over here under this timing chain sprocket, just going to be a little of a challenge. All right, so I'm back under the truck here. This has sat for a couple days. I have the pan bolted back up. The sealant is now cured for like 2 days. I took the drain plug out. That way some air could circulate in there. It would cure a little better. So now I'm just going to put the drain bolt back in. These just screw in until they click. So I still have to get the differential bolted back up. I have one side bolted up on the differential, but there's 2 bolts on this side, one here and then one on the other front. I have to bolt back up. And then I just have to tighten down the steering. I took the 2 steering rack bolts out, or loosened them so I could remove the other one. So once I do that, I'll be good to go. But I'm going to fill it back up with oil. Since I've drained it, now it's ready to get oil. I'll refill the oil, and then I'll also change out and put in the oil filter as well. Okay, your oil filter is right on top of the engine under this little canister here. You pull it out, it's just a little cartridge filter. There's just 2 O-rings here. We'll just replace those, pull those off, replace the O-ring here, and just put the new filter back on and screw it back in. All right, I got the new seals on. These 2 here, this one on the tip. This one's a little harder to get on. You just got to really work it over the tip. You put the new filter on. These new seals actually come with the new oil filter. So pop in the new filter, and then I'm just going to actually put a little oil on the O-rings themselves. That way they'll won't bind up when I screw it down. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. We got it all wrapped up. We got the oil all in. I just want to make sure that it's not gonna leak out of the bottom. Time will tell if this holds up, but just a few things to wrap up underneath with the differential and screwing in the bolts for the steering rack and the sway bar. We got to finish that up. So anyways, thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned to the next episode when I get all that wrapped up and we take it for a test ride and just see how it holds up.